5 Scary Christmas Mysteries. Christmas is a time to be merry with family and friends. Unfortunately, crime never sleeps and doesn't care what holiday it is. The next 5 crimes are especially haunting because they happen during a time meant for celebrating happiness and joy. These are 5 scary Christmas mysteries. Number 5. Los Feliz Murder. At 2475 Glendower Place in the Los Angeles neighborhood of Los Feliz, a once beautiful Spanish Revival home has sat locked up for the past 50 years. Now dubbed as the Los Feliz Murder House, it has become an iconic stop on various murder mystery tours in the area. This home was once owned by the Perelsons in the 1950s. Dr. Harold Perelson, a prominent surgeon, lived there with his wife Lillian, 18-year-old daughter Judy, 13-year-old son Joseph, and 11-year-old Debbie. On the night of December 6, 1959, the doctor arrived home from work as he had many times before, and then greeted his wife and kids before making himself a drink. After dinner, Lillian went to bed, while Harold stayed downstairs. Sometime between 4:30 and 5 a.m., the doctor woke up. He casually went into the kitchen where they kept a small tool chest, grabbed a ball-peen hammer, and walked upstairs to the bedroom. He stood over his wife, raised the hammer, and smashed it into her skull several times. He then headed to Judy's room, who had awoken after hearing the commotion. As the doctor moved in to strike her, she was able to soften the blow by blocking it with her hands, but he still connected, causing her to bleed and become disoriented. She began screaming at the top of her lungs, "Don't kill me," waking up her other siblings as well as the neighbors. Judy fell to the ground incapacitated, and the doctor moved on to pacify Debbie, who had gotten out of bed and was witnessing the horrific scene. He told her, "Go back to bed, baby. This is just a nightmare." He then went back inside Judy's room to finish her off, but by this time, she had stumbled out the front door and found her neighbor, who had called the police. Debbie got her brother and left the house as well. When police did arrive, they spoke to the neighbors and made sure the children were all right. Judy was rushed to the hospital with a fracture on her skull as well as several bruises. Police then entered the home and headed upstairs where they found the doctor on the floor, dead. He had downed 2 doses of Nembutal, along with 31 tranquilizer pills. His wife was still in her bed, her face unrecognizable from the repeated blows. Neighbors described the family as normal, and Dr. Perelson as quiet and mild-mannered, so when news of the incident broke out, it came as a shock to the community. During the investigation, police discovered letters Judy had written to her aunt saying she was looking for a job to help out her parents. She says, "We're on the merry-go-round again. Same problems, same worries, only tenfold. My parents are in a bind financially." Apparently, the good doctor succumbed to the stress of financial troubles and thought having his family dead was better than having them live in poverty. Shortly after the incident, the home was left abandoned until it was sold to Julian and Emily Enriquez. But the new family never moved in and simply used it for storage. The home is said to be haunted all these years later, with paranormal researchers saying they've often seen an apparition of a woman in the window. It was recently sold last year, and the new owners have said that they want to renovate and eventually live there full time. Number 4. Patty Vaughn Disappearance. It was December 25, 1996, when 32-year-old Patty Vaughn disappeared. She was married to Jerry Vaughan, but the couple had been on a trial separation since October of that year, despite being married for over 11 years. Their marriage had been a turbulent one. Jerry had a volatile temper, and Patty's co-workers even testified that since their separation, he had harassed his wife repeatedly at the workplace. On the day she vanished, Jerry told authorities he and Patty had a huge argument because she had been seeing an old boyfriend again. Just a day after she was reported missing by her family, Jerry officially filed divorce papers. After this, Patty's light blue minivan was found parked by the side of the road. During the investigation, police found that her tires had been slashed. There was a pile of men's clothing inside, along with a red jumpsuit that a mechanic or workman might wear. And the carpet inside had recently been shampooed as well. Despite that, investigators discovered traces of blood on the carpet, and when a thorough search of Patty's home was done, they also found traces of blood inside the bedroom and on a mop. It was apparent someone tried to clean up the house, and the DNA testing done showed that the blood belonged to Patty. Although Jerry remains the primary suspect in the case, there isn't enough evidence to charge him with any crime. On the other hand, Jerry maintains his innocence in the matter and believes Patty left him on her own accord. He has since gained custody of their children, moved out of state, and had Patty declared legally dead in 2005. In 2008, police announced they might be close to solving the case. Jerry continues to be the prime suspect, but they believe close family friends of his helped to dispose of the body. However, police won't name anyone. The children have also not come forward to speak about what happened on the day that their mother disappeared, and so today, the case still remains unsolved. Number 3. Rhonda Hinson. In Valdez, North Carolina, on the night of December 22, 1981, 19-year-old Rhonda Hinson was driving home after celebrating her very first office Christmas party. She dropped off her 2 friends and proceeded home, where she was living with her parents, just 10 miles away. But by 1 a.m., Rhonda's mother awoke with a strange premonition. She felt something terrible had happened to her daughter, and that she had died in an accident. Her father then woke up and listened to his police scanner to find out if there had been accidents in the area, and that's when they heard that something had happened, and it involved Rhonda's car. Police found her vehicle by the roadside with the driver's door left open. A few feet away lay Rhonda's lifeless body. Her hands were placed by her side, and she had a bullet wound in her chest. Police discovered that the bullet that penetrated her was fired from a high-powered rifle. It appeared the shot had been fired from behind Rhonda's car, and then went through the trunk, her car seat, and finally straight through her heart. Initially, it was thought to have been a stray bullet, or perhaps a random act of violence. But the more information that authorities gathered, the more they realized that something wasn't right. Family and friends described Rhonda as a happy and popular teen. She had recently graduated from school and obtained a clerical job for a steel company shortly after that. But weeks after graduation, her family said she was acting very strange. It began with her asking her father to accompany her whenever she was driving in town, something she had never asked him to do before. During one of these trips, she acted as if she wanted to tell her father something, but when he inquired what was troubling her, she didn't say anything more. In the meantime, her mother also recalled an incident where her daughter asked her if it was ever okay to see a married man. They also noticed how she would awaken in the middle of the night and take a shower. When they inquired as to why, she would just reply that she felt dirty. Police say that was a sign Rhonda was either sexually abused or being pressured by someone to do something she didn't want to. Moreover, authorities discovered that someone might have been stalking Rhonda as she went home that night. One witness came forward saying they drove through the same interstate 30 minutes prior to Rhonda and reported seeing a vehicle with 2 males parked in it that was stationed on the exit ramp that Rhonda would use. Later on, another driver would pass by after the young girl's death and came across the same blue vehicle speeding away from the scene with a single male driver inside. As the witness went on, he saw Rhonda's car and a female slumped over on the steering wheel with a man standing close to the driver's door. They didn't see the man's face and thought that they were a drunken couple, so he didn't stop. This witness also recalled seeing another dark vehicle parked close by, which they believed would have belonged to the killer or killers. Latent prints were found on the driver's side of the car that didn't belong to Rhonda, and most likely were left behind by her murderer. The main witness underwent hypnosis and said that a man around 6 feet tall with brown hair and a medium build was who they saw. He also saw that the blue vehicle leaving the scene was a 70s Chevelle that had damage to the front end, but other than that, couldn't recall much more. To this day, Rhonda's case remains unsolved. Her parents still hold out hope someone will come forward with information about the case. The police do have possible DNA of the suspect, but unfortunately, no one to compare it to. Number 2. Warminster Sonic Attacks. It was Christmas morning of 1964. The small town of Warminster in the UK was preparing to celebrate the holidays, expecting it would be the same as years before. But on this day, things were very different. During this odd Christmas morning, residents in the area described hearing strange sounds consisting of pounding vibrations. One resident even heard something fall onto their roof, and when they went to check out what it was, the weather was clear and there was nothing they could find that would have come in contact with their house. A married couple heard their dog frantically barking and whimpering outside. Their daughter Josie went to check and found the dog huddled on one side of the shed, trembling in fear. She couldn't find anything unusual, but when she decided to return to the house, she suddenly felt the air around her tighten. Afterwards, a terrifying whining sound from the air came about, even though she couldn't find any possible cause for it. Other residents reported having a flock of pigeons directly dying after being struck by this mysterious sound. Other animals, like dead mice in the fields, were also found in very large amounts. The townsfolk all experienced the phenomenon and described it as sonic attacks. Also among those that reported hearing the sound, which was later dubbed as the Thing, were a group of soldiers at a nearby army base. Like all the others, the soldiers could not find any source for it. Marjorie By, a resident in the area, was walking towards a Christmas service when she was knocked to the ground after hearing the loud vibrating noises. The sound rendered her weak and almost unable to move. She's quoted as saying she was pinned down by the invisible fingers of sound. The following year after the sounds were heard, mysterious unidentified flying objects began to be seen in the area as well. One of these is a famous image taken by one resident of what looks to be a flying disc. The image put this small town on the map as UFO enthusiasts and reporters hounded the residents for stories. Although the Thing has never been experienced since, the mystery of the sound attacks and UFO sightings are believed by many to be connected in some way. How exactly, no one knows. Number 1. Danny and Cathy Freeman. On December 29, 1999, police were called to the Freemans' mobile home in Oklahoma as a passerby saw a fire had broken out on the property. Inside the house at the time was Cathy and Danny Freeman, their 16-year-old daughter Ashley, and her best friend Loria Bible, who was there for a birthday party sleepover. Police sifted through the debris where they found Cathy's body with a gunshot wound. Stopping any further search, the police concluded that her husband had killed her and then took the 2 teenage girls and burned the property down. See, Danny was an unpopular character with the authorities. Earlier on, his son Shane had stolen a pickup truck and was shot and killed by a local police officer. This officer was cleared of any wrongdoing, but the Freemans were considering filing a civil lawsuit against the department. Danny is also known to have somewhat of a violent temper. He once beat up his father-in-law for trimming his bushes without asking permission. He was also accused of abusing his son, however, Danny was acquitted from that case. It was also well known that he was part of a drug trafficking ring, as he reportedly grew marijuana close to their family's property. So with bad blood between Danny and the cops, it's no surprise the department thought he had something to do with the death of his wife. But they overlooked some crucial evidence. And that was that in the debris, close to his wife, was the body of Danny himself. The day after the fire, Lorea's family tried to gather more evidence as to where their daughter was and started sifting through the ashes, and that's when they discovered Danny. The autopsy noted that he had a broken shoulder and chances are had fought with the attacker prior to being shot and killed. The two girls, however, were nowhere to be found. Lorea's family was able to find their daughter's purse and her vehicle close to the property as well, with the keys still in the ignition. There were theories as to who killed the Freemans and possibly took the teenage girls and killed them as well. First, there was the sheriff's department. The animosity stemming from Shane's death was ongoing and possibly escalated to this tragedy. Another theory was that Ashley was also abused by her father and that her mother allowed it, so she and her best friend decided to kill them both. But police have found nothing in the girls' background to substantiate this theory, as they both seem to be well behaved. As for the Bible family, they believe Danny's involvement with drugs might have something to do with the murder and disappearance of the two girls. Meanwhile, the Freeman's relatives think it was the police because apparently Danny told his brother that if something ever happened to him, that he should look to the sheriff's department. Other suspects considered were Jeremy Jones, a convicted killer and rapist who confessed to the killing but later recanted his confession. Until now, the case of Cathy and Danny Freeman's death remains a mystery, and the two young girls are still nowhere to be found. So there were 5 scary Christmas mysteries. Criminals don't take holidays off, as these cases prove. For those involved, what is usually a season of joy and happiness has been transformed into a day of strange happenings, disappearances, and death. If you enjoyed watching this, then please subscribe to our channel and share it with your friends. I appreciate you tuning in. Merry Christmas, and I'll see you next week.